Hello, hello everyone, and welcome back to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. And in today's stream, I'm going to be working a bit more on this character design. And I'm close to done. I did his shirt uh, last night, and now I just need to do his shorts and his shoes. Oh, and his hair. And then I should be done. I also may need to go on another layer, or not go on another layer, but like go back over and do some cleanup or pick up where I missed some lines. I had to pick from a few samples of like a violet color because I wasn't picking up the right color I wanted for his shirt. So that's what these blotches are over here. But seeing it now, I may just darken it a bit more. Let me go back and erase some of this. Next is to just do the hair. Usually, when I draw hair on my characters, what I like to do is I like to choose a color that's sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum. So I go for like a black with just a slight tint of blue. And I do that because this character has brown skin. He's a dark skinned man. So choosing a warm color for his hair would actually impede him. And so the warm black or like the warm blackish gray would actually blend too well. It would be too warm with his skin color and sort of make him almost diluted. Because I would say that what stands out about this character most, next to his next to the purple markings on his body, is his hair. Like he has long dreads. So that's really something that I want to push and express. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? You see, I may want to go lighter because the hair is not blending well with the color and line art I chose. So let me just go a bit lighter and go a bit over. You see, now that's a better color. I like this color. And so for certain areas, I did choose like these long tendril strands for his dreadlocks. And in other poses, I actually went for a more geometric type look. And I do think that I like the geometric type look better because it gives volume to his locks. Like for a while, I had twists in my hair, and then at the place where I work, I noticed that a few of my coworkers have dreadlocks, so I started taking like extra care and extra attention to them. I was also looking at other animes like Fire Force and seeing how that character and other anime artists drew dreadlocks. Most people use the lasso tool, like they'll do a lasso tool and then use the paint bucket fill. But I like to hand paint because it gives me a more familiar understanding with what I drew and what I just draw. And then as I paint and as I color, I actually think of more things, and it does help me go back over and tweak what needs to be tweaked, and helps me figure out, okay, am I missing something or is this wrong? And I do think that the beard was also a good idea because it adds more to his masculinity. Like one of the big things about this character is I wanted him to have a air of grace and elegance, which are actually very rare traits. It's not that it's impossible for a man to have grace and elegance. It's more so like in media nowadays, you mainly see like big muscular men, which is definitely not a bad thing. Like most men are muscular, and a part of male education and male development is growing a more muscular, physically strong, and imposing sort of stature and place in life. And I'm definitely not for like trying to deconstruct that or anything like that. I would just like to show a more, or rather, a less seen aspect of men, which is their more graceful and elegant side. Let me do a time check. Okay, it's already 10:23, so I think I should be able to do the hair tie after this, and then afterwards do the So after this, I'm gonna do the hair tie and then try and do the eyes, and then I can try to start shading. Oh yeah, I still gotta do the shoes too. Dang, I was so excited doing the hair. Like this is one of like the hair. It's like the hair and the arms. Those are my two favorite aspects of this character. And I will say that I definitely like the more geometric sort of take I went on with his hair instead of just trying to do long strands. This more like cuboid, almost braided slash dreaded look is definitely a lot better for the character. I mean, because you might have been able to guess, but I'm also quite a, I wouldn't say a big fan, but I really like Hazbin Hotel and Genshin Impact. And so, like, one of the things that occurs in both those shows is like characters having multiple forms and like being able to transform themselves, which is actually sort of a concept from the Bible, which is like there's this whole thing in the book of Revelations where when Jesus comes back, he gives us a new form, a perfect body free of sin. So I do like that idea of characters being able to transform or characters being able to shapeshift in some way. And I will say that this world doesn't have that sort of narrative lore or structure to allow for characters to transform more freely. But I will say that there will be moments and times where characters will sort of transform or take on a sort of battle shape. And I will say that the two characters who transform the most are definitely going to be Ao and Nancy. Nancy specifically because he is an illusionist, so his whole thing is sort of being the cover or being the sort of rogue of the group, where he gets in and out of locations or he runs control and distraction, different stuff like that. Because Nancy, which is actually the next character I'm going to be doing my character design video on, is only 12 years old. And so, one of the big things in this world, let me actually orient my mic closer so you guys can hear me better. And so, one of the big things in this world is magic and the ability to manipulate magical energy is partly based on biology as well as your perception. So it is like casting your intent over the world. So, with that, children are actually weaker at magic because they don't have the understanding of the world. Now there are outliers, like there are children who are magic prodigies or children who are very smart and understand things like physics, and they do have that blend of creativity and understanding to pull off amazing and fantastical feats of magic. But the common child, which Nancy is, because he does not have a grasp of understanding of the world and his sort of what's it called? His perception of reality and magic is still going through development. He more so relies on illusion magic. So he will cast illusions, he will cast transformations, and he will distract people. So that's his sort of like go to thing for the group. And he's actually one of the best illusionists in the group. Because he is a child, because he is so creative, and because he has moments where he has an active imagination. And again, there is going to be a theme of like there is going to be like a slight theme of I want to say like abuse or coercion, where outsiders looking in think that Nancy is being coerced to do this stuff, when really he is here of his own volition. Because what we have to remember is that, there are children in this world who are capable of doing terrible things. Like, there are child murderers, and there are, like, people who do terrible things. So it's going to be like that balancing act, and it's definitely going to be a commentary for the show where it's like, how responsible is Nazi in his own revenge and in his own pursuit of revenge? When really there are going to be moments and times where Nancy is the one who thinks of many of the plans, or where Nancy is a active participant and even instigator in some of their plots and ploys. Because again, this is a show where we don't have heroes and villains, we have antagonists and protagonists. And sort of the core and crux of the show is a revenge story. These are men and women who have been wronged and they are seeking either revenge or justice. Nancy specifically, his parents were overworked and subsequently experimented on. Essentially, because they were so overworked, it led to them practicing unsafe lab conditions and left them in an accident that caused them to be mentally deficient. And so now Nancy has to take care of his family, essentially giving up his own childhood in the process. Like, look at him. Doesn't he look handsome? Like, doesn't that look like a handsome man? I designed him to be handsome, okay? Like, that was the crux, that was the core of what I wanted to do, was to design this character to look and be handsome. It's only been about a little over 30 minutes. You know what? I forgot to draw this hair. Almost done. And then I get to do the hair tie. Well, actually, no, let me do the eyes first because if I do the hair tie, then that's going to be a whole rant for me to talk about, which is going to be good content, but may not do me so well when it comes to actually finishing this project. And all this really stemmed from me not being able to stay on model for the small animation I was doing. So I just said, you know what? I'm just going to start this emergency character design. But I will say that that just looking at this off the bat, I like the more excuse me. I like the more cuboid and geometric design I chose for the hair rather than just the long tendrils. Like this right here actually gives the hair more structure and volume. And it's not going to be too hard when I animate it because there's going to be many different angles. I don't have to worry about it. Like literally all the time I was spent drawing the pants, which were actually going to be jogger pants, can now be spent working on the hair, which will just be on its own separate layer entirely. Now let me do the eyes before I forget. I'm going to draw the pupils first because I already know that that's going to because I already know that doing the eyes are going to take me a while. So let me do the pupils. Hmm. And I do like the way I drew the eyes because for the longest time I never could find a way that I like to draw eyes because I was always going for the more anime sort of rounded rectangle look. But over time, I figured out my own way to draw eyes, and that's really what's fun and exciting, especially when it comes to animation. Is it's almost like you find your art style faster, or you find your own sort of shorthand ways of drawing things better and easier for yourself, which is always good. So this. Now the pupils. Going to zoom in. Another small thing, well, not really small thing, but like interesting thing about this character that I like is his heterochromia. Is like he has a sort of monster eye, or sort of like demon eye, which definitely adds to his sort of more exotic nature. Now, the red I use for his eye is also going to be the red I use for the ribbon in his hair. So it's going to definitely be something sort of sharp and it's going to stand out. Now, as for his other eye, I don't know if I want to give him sort of like a light brown eye or a dark brown eye. Let me actually zoom out and see. Because his skin is already a warm color, as is his shirt, but his. That's actually very interesting. Like, do I want a light color? I mean, because I definitely know that I want something a bit more paler. Well, not really pale, but just like lighter because his skin is already so saturated, which is definitely a good thing because what you see a lot in like animation and media and people drawing black characters in general is that they don't give them saturated skin. But like black skin, dark people, our skin is so saturated and like I don't mean to sound full of myself, but like that's the truth. Like our skin is, if you look at a lot of black people, like our skin is saturated, and it's not common for people to draw our skin like that. Cause his skin is already sort of this like reddish orange, so I'm wondering if I should go full tilt into that and do a more. I think I'm going to change the hue closer to orange. I'm going to lighten it a bit because I want to give him a more, I want to say, autumn orange than fall orange. Like, oh my gosh, he's just so beautiful. He's just so beautiful and handsome. Like I designed him to be handsome. Okay, don't judge me. Don't judge me. He's designed to be handsome. He's designed to look exotic. That's the core of his character design is this exotic look that he has. Oh, and guys, definitely feel free to comment. Like I look forward to comments. I like talking to people. So don't be afraid to say anything to me or ask me questions. Now that actually that brown is sort of blending into his skin, so I may want to go. Ooh, I got a call. Hello? Hello? Another robot call. I'm on the lookout for job application calls because I applied to that teaching artist position, like I told you guys about. And when I talked when I talked to the front desk woman like about a week or two ago, she, not really a week or two ago, more like 2 or 3 weeks ago, she said that the position was still new and fresh, so I should expect to hear something back within a month's time. So I just called them yesterday and said, "Hey, I applied to this position. Da 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 da. Do you guys know anything about it?" And I haven't heard back from them. But on the subject of my character, that brown is actually blending in into his skin more, which is something I want to avoid. So I may go darker for the brown, but I can save that for like a future stream or for like off camera because that's so small and slight. For now, I want to work on the left eye and the ribbon in his hair. So the left eye is just going to be like straight red. He's just gonna have a straight up red eye. And I'm gonna use the same color for the ribbon in his hair. I chose red because that's gonna be like the one big vibrant thing that contrasts with him because the rest of his design and character is so blue and purple focused. So for him to have something in his design that sticks out like that, like a red in a mass of blue and purple, that would be definitely something that is interesting about the character. Because the red also acts as a symbol of his passion. Like red can signify rage, anger, intense passion, and love. And so this is a character who is definitely passionate, but he is bound by his passion. So, what I mean by that is he's very passionate about getting his revenge, but he has to hold himself down because he knows that he cannot get what he is seeking by himself. If he tries, it's only going to be worse for him. Oh, look, I've been so in the zone drawing. I didn't even notice. Oh, I didn't even notice these comments. Like that's what happens. Really, is like I just when I start streaming, when I start drawing, and when I start getting into it, like I just lose All sense of focus, and I'm only drawn. But hello, Rain City, and hello, Ni Caspian, Rain City, and Ni Caspian. Welcome to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. Yes, he is wearing boots. Yes, Rain City, he is wearing boots. And thank you for the compliment. As for Nick Caspian, wow, it's unbelievably hard to find these types of streams, and finally I did. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to my streams, I stream. Well, I live on the East Coast of the United States, so like think the 13 colonies. So when I stream, I like to stream early in the day. Well, not too early, but usually that 10 a.m. to 11:30 or 12:30 time slot. So that's gonna be like what's it called? Lunchtime here in the East Coast, New York time, because not a lot of people are streaming during this time. So I've kind of made that my capital time to stream. And I also learned that in other parts of the world, like I have one viewer, he lives in the Philippines, and another person, another regular viewer, they live in the Middle East. And so they usually watch me around, I want to say, like 8, 9, 10 p.m. and close to 12 at night. So, like, it sort of evens out that way where folks are just chill. It's come and go as you please, so definitely don't feel pressured to stay here longer than you need to. Like, and we talk, we chill, we just, you know, relate to each other. Folks ask me different questions. If you guys have any comments or any questions, definitely feel free to ask. But yeah, this character, his name is A Young. He is actually the main character of the show I'm working on, which is called The Seven Sages. It's sort of this blend of fantasy and technology where post the year 2000, there was an event known as the Cascade, which led magic to return to the world. People now have access to magic, people can cast spells. There's also sort of this platinum age where magic is now, where technology is now fueled by magic. So we do have things like floating buildings, flying cars, magic brooms, different things like that. And magic in this world is based on your perception. So men are more prone to more structured magic where they have to sort of explain and sort of mentally process why or how their magic is achieved. Whereas women, they are more so, their magic is more potent. But that doesn't restrict people from using different types of magic or going through different perceptions of their magic because again it's magic is something very personal in this world. And so there's also sort of this resurgence where because magic has returned to this world, it's sort of like a water cycle or the nitrogen cycle, where magic was always a part of people. It's just the cycle was stagnant until the cascade occurred and led people to be able to use magic once more. So people have longer lifespans. People live to about 500, sometimes even 900 years if they're skilled enough in magic. There's like hyperflora and hyperfauna. Again, floating islands, giant trees, animals with. Oh, really? The red eye reminds you of Thundercats? I wasn't really going for that, but I can kind of see it now. So Ayo's backstory is that he was a scientist and he was sort of the lead researcher who discovered magic. There was one sort of experiment where his colleague pushed him into a rift and he was cast into this void space where his body was constantly being torn apart and put back together. And there was sort of this temporal displacement where even though it was just like 10 years outside, in his time it was more like 100 years, leading to him having these purple markings around his body, as well as him having this red eye. And him like first getting out of the portal, he's actually far worse off. But because he sort of was able to master magic in his time there, he was able to heal himself, but he still has this residual scarring. And his overarching design, at least for his like day clothes or his like regular character design, is definitely more inspired by black culture. For one, he wears sort of like a modified dashiki, which has sort of a higher slit on the sides, and then he also wears detached sleeves and thermal sort of like leggings, which were very big for young black athletes, especially in the early 2000s, because black men were definitely more active in the early 2000s. They played a lot of basketball and football. Their culture got more into wearing like thermals and sleeves and leggings or like athletic, what they call athletic thermals, like thermal underwear and stuff like that. So that's why his design is the way it is. But I also wanted to blend sort of this beauty and this mysterious grace in his design as well. Earlier drafts of the character, he didn't have the beard, but I definitely think that the beard was a good addition because it adds a bit more to his masculinity. Because one of the things that we don't see in men, especially male characters, is sort of grace and elegance. Like a lot of the aspects that are pushed, and it's definitely not a bad thing, but a lot of the aspects in men that are pushed are their physical expertise and not really their minds and not really their understanding or their mental capacity. So I wanted Ayo to be a character that has this sort of allure about him, where he can draw anyone, man or woman, to him. And it's sort of this flocking, this want or desire to have proximity to him, which definitely sort of underscores, or rather takes hint and takes heed to his appearance. But once people are actually close to him, he entraps them with his mind and his personality. It is pronounced Ayoung, and it's actually based on an African folk tale of the boy and the magic stone, who was a young boy. He received a magical stone, and he was able to, I believe, make a potion with it. It's been a while since I read the story, but I got A Young's name from there. And so I switched between calling him A Young and Ayo, which is just AYO for short. Because characters in the story will be switching between those two names for him, his name and his nickname. Now, for Ayo, because he's the main character, I drew a lot of inspirations for him, but I would say that the core of his inspirations came from the Bible, specifically the book of Enoch and the book of Revelations. And so, like, the book of Enoch, for those of you who may or may not know, is an apocryphal text where it goes over like fallen angels and the creation of giants and the creation and generation of like why God flooded the world to begin with. And there's like a bunch of different core aspects of it. Like the fallen angels taught man how to create armor, how to do magic, how to read signs of the earth and the stars, read the movements of the stars and of the sun and the moon, like different stuff like that. So really that return to magic is definitely inspired by the book of Enoch. And then we also have different concepts and aspects from the book of Revelation, specifically the like the fall of man. And so like the end of the world, the cascade is directly linked to the book of Revelation and how like there was this meteor shower that blanketed the earth. Some people were able to escape and so they went into bunkers and were able to hide, whereas others were not able to escape, and that led them to have this sort of direct exposure to magic. And so now not only do we have humans, but we also have like elves and orcs and half animal, half human creatures, and people who are humanoid but who have animal features, and other different sort of fantasy races and creatures. Because one of the things I don't like is the demonization that is rampant in the Christian community, where they call everything demonic and everything satanic. I personally believe that the Bible can be used to tell some very interesting and engaging stories. And what many Christians keep forgetting is that Jesus was a storyteller. Jesus used parable. He used analogy. He used symbolism and metaphor to tell stories. Like that, he was a big proponent. Not only that, but there are also many different prophets and scribes who also told stories. So why are Christians now demonizing every single story made? And then when there are Christians who do make stories, they make some very shitty stories. Like I hate to curse. I'm a Christian man, but their stories are so terrible. And I'm like, you can do better than that. Like you can like you don't it doesn't have to be on the nose and it doesn't have to be dumbed down. Like people seek to be engaged. People want to watch something more interesting than just like what's that Christian cartoon called? Like Delilah or something? Or like it's that like lame and horrible Christian cartoon about like these kids who like have very on the nose lessons and principles that they teach people, and it's like they remind them every 5-10 seconds. Like no, that's horrible, that's terrible, that's so lazy. Like you could be using analogy and parable to tell stories about because like I'm just gonna be honest, and like I'm gonna be honest, like there's some wild and crazy stuff. Like who was it? Not Jacob. Joseph's sons, like Joseph's 12 sons. There was this story about how this Canaanite man, like forced himself onto one of Joseph's daughters, and so Joseph's sons went in and they freaking slaughtered all the Canaanite men. Like that was some wild stuff that they were doing. Like there were stories of like Joseph or no, Jacob getting sold by his brothers, and then later after a famine, like his brothers now come to him and his brothers are kneeling before him asking him for like food and supplies and resources and cattle. And then like after getting all those resources during the famine, they go back and like they send their father and their cattle back to Egypt so that they can live amongst Pharaoh. And like Pharaoh's wife trying to force herself onto Jacob. Like there's some wild stuff that happens in the Bible, and I'm just like, you could tell so many different interesting stories, and they don't have to be like one-to-one recreations of the Bible. But like this is just me going on. And shoot, I'm about to reach like the a minute 30 mark. It's okay. Let me finish drawing this character. But anyway, what I was saying is that I like the idea of telling interesting stories. And what I want to do is use my craft and use my creative mind to tell more interesting and engaging stories. And I do hope that one day, if not soon, I will be able to gain enough support to tell these stories I have plans for. And I know I just went on like a rant or tirade or had you guys confused, but this is just something I'm compassionate about because there's like so much, and there are so many stories. Like, and that's really the sad thing is like Narnia is amazing, Lord of the Rings is amazing. Those two properties are heavily inspired by Christianity, but like because the old guard Christians are just so and like I get it. Like I am not ignorant to there being a spiritual world. Like there are things of a spiritual nature and there are things that do carry like weight to them. But like you just complain instead of doing something about it. Like I hate folks the Bible says not to hate. I can't stand folks who complain about stuff but then do nothing to fix it or do nothing to make it more engaging. Like they would much rather have you just not do anything, but they don't give you a reasonable or a more engaging substitute. And like I'm just not gonna get on the Christians too because like there are people who do some horrible stuff. Like in my previous streams, I constantly talk about Hollywood. Like just straight up, Hollywood is full of demons. It's full of demons, it's full of gatekeepers. Hollywood, California, that place is on fire right now. Well, no, technically it's flooding right now. But what I mean is that that place is going down into the gutter. Like there have been fires in California. There's the actor strike. There's the writer strike. There's the animator layoff. You can't find a job in California. What else is going on in California? They have homelessness. They have a migrant crisis. They have a housing crisis. So much stuff is going on in that place. Like Hollywood is full of straight demons. Then every year or two, you have a story coming out about some child actor who was touched or who was abused, or people having to air quote sell their soul to the devil in order to get work. And like those Hollywood parties, like you be hearing some wild stuff that be going on in those parties. So like I'm just saying, like the media isn't off the hook either. But like all I'm saying is that things can be better and no one is really doing anything about it. That's really the sad part. Is folks will complain and folks will cry and do this, that, and the third, but they won't do anything to fix it or make the situation better for other people. But right now I'm talking about Ayo, and right now I'm just working on this, and we'll see how things go as I continue onwards. So, other than my tirade, does anybody have any questions? Would anyone like to comment or maybe subscribe after this stream or do anything y'all like? Because, we can go on for a while now. On Tuesdays, I usually tend to sign off at like an hour 15 minutes, an hour 20 minutes. But since I got y'all here, like maybe we can talk for a few extra minutes before I go off on my own. So what I gave you guys earlier about like the cascade and magic returning, that was more so the lore of the world, but the actual story is following seven men and women who are seeking revenge. Essentially, each of them have been wronged in some way or another, and they've all come together in order to either get revenge or get justice because they were wronged. And so the leader is Ao. He was pushed into a rift and his body was torn apart and reconstructed. And so he's sort of the leader where he gets so emotional and unstable that he cannot keep himself together. So he has forged a team of people who are also seeking revenge and who are also seeking justice. And they are now systematically going after the people and the groups that have wronged them. There is another character, Trina. She is a close friend to Ao. And so she was a scientist, she was a chemist, and the credit for her work and discoveries was stolen from her. And so that's why she's seeking revenge. We then have Nancy, who is the youngest member. He's 12 years old, but his parents were scientists, and they were worked to the bone. And because they were worked so hard, there was a lab accident that left them sort of hospitalized and in a state mentally where they could no longer look after Nancy. There is another character. He's ex-military. He went under experiments to become sort of like the super soldier, where he has powerful magic now, but the only downside is he was left barren. And the only reason why he took on the experiment was because he would have gotten into a good standing to finally pop the question to his fiance, get married, and eventually down the line have kids. But because he can no longer have children, he sort of went insane. Not really insane, but he just sort of went through a downward spiral. And each of these characters have their own sort of drawbacks and traumas and things that they go through. Because another big theme and sort of the core of this story is righteous fury and righteous anger. So, like in the Bible, 6 things God hates, the seventh he finds most deplorable. Like 6 things that even anger God, and how being angry and being upset at those things is a righteous fury. And so each of the 7 main characters sort of have this concept or have this aspect that is the core of why they are seeking revenge and why they are upset at what has happened to them. And on top of that, there is also this interplay between the 7 deadly sins and the 7 heavenly virtues. Like for Nancy, his whole thing is envy and kindness, where he was like always a kind kid growing up. He always helped people, he was always good to people. But because he has lost his parents, and now he has given into more of his more base temptations and his base angers and inadequacies, where now he is envious of those who do have their parents, or he is envious of those who do have a more stable life than him. There is Ao, whose aspect is pride and humility, where starting off he was a very humble person, but because he was so humble, it led to him being taken advantage of. And now he is more so prideful and reserved with himself, his knowledge, what he knows. And honestly, I could go on forever. I've already reached the 1 hour, 30 minute mark. And I got work today. Sadly, guys, I do have a day job. I work from like 2 p.m. to 11 at a retail store. So let me just finish coloring these boots and then I'm going to go. But if you guys are interested, you can watch some of my previous videos because I've already submitted a video on the two lower ranking members of the Seven Sages, which is Miria and what was the other guy's name? Saren. They're already on my YouTube channel, so you guys can watch them, and I go over their character design and their concepts and sort of their personal backstories. So definitely give those a watch, and if you guys are interested in this show and in this show idea long term, definitely visit my you can visit my past live streams. You can keep up to date, like hit the bell notification to stay up to date on whatever else I'm working on. Uh, I at least like I'm still working on this project, and I'm still gonna be working on. Thank you for that, Rain City. But watch some of my previous live stream. Watch some of my previous videos. There's definitely a lot I've worked on that can be found in my past live streams. And then there's definitely more I'm planning on working on because long term, my intent is to make my own show. Like I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. Like when it comes to like the brick and mortar entertainment and media industry in like California, I hate to say it, but I think that place is dead. So indie sadly is gonna be the way to go moving forward. And I do have hopes and plans to start my own animation studio one day. I just need to get like the following up. Likely when I reach like 1,000 subscribers or maybe like 1,200. I'll see whichever one comes first or like if I get enough traction with this series and with my live streams, then I can also start a Kickstarter and make a pilot. So let me just finish this and then I will sign off and get ready for work. Sorry guys, but I gotta go. But I do stream on Fridays as well. My stream times are Tuesday and Friday. I start at around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And hopefully, if I get this new job, because I'm gonna just be honest, them folks in retail, like the customers are good. I love the customers, but like the management is, those managers are something else. But anyway, if I can get this new job, which is a part time position at $30 an hour, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. I would love it. Then I could likely do a bit more and I would have more free time to I'd have more free time to work on my project more. But like I'm trying to make ends meet with this. But anyway, this is Ao. This is Ayoung, a handsome black man. Read it and weep. Like look at it and flaunt and awe. Handsome, handsome, handsome. He was designed to be handsome. But anyway, you too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rain City. And also thank you as well, Nick Caspian. Thank you for sitting and talking with me and like giving me some more stuff to talk about and giving me reasons to go over and ruminate on my characters and character designs more and share my story because this was very fun, exciting, and engaging. Uh, More than likely, I'm going to finish coloring what I need to, do some cleanup around like the line work, and then I'll work on my shading. I'll also work on a new character design and finish up on my animation. Oh, and I have to do my Zhongli fan art video as well. I'm like a big Genshin Impact fan, and I go over it in my Venti. I go over it in my Venti fan art speed paint video. But essentially, I'm working on a series where I go over the different archons and talk about their ideals. But that's for another stream. I really do have to go. Just thank you all for watching. Anyway, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share even. I stream on Tuesdays and Fridays. Tuesdays are my shorter stream days, so I only stream till about an hour, 15 minutes, sometimes an hour 30. Fridays are my longer streaming times, so they both start at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Fridays are longer, and I usually go for like 2 hours, 2 hour 30 minutes, sometimes 3 hours. Anyway, this has been Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. I'll see you guys in my next video or live stream. Bye.